Good morning, everyone, or salam alaikum, everyone. So I'm trying to practice my Arabic a bit, right? And just to make sure I understand the culture, and also I really appreciate the region. The region gave us a lot of good customers, investors, and partners. So today we're going to cover a very interesting and complicated topic, which is the security of the events, right? Everybody loves events. Everybody is happy that after the lockdowns, events are reopening. People can meet together, socialize. They can build relationship. Personally, I made a lot of friends on the events, meeting people, hanging out with them, right? And then visiting their families, sharing food, etc. But also events come with a lot of complications, specifically in the security and the crowd organization space. So, and today I'm super happy to have speakers from MOBOTIX and Scylla Middle East. Let me introduce myself. I'm Albert Stepanyan, CEO and the founder of Scylla. I have a dual background in military and engineering space, and from 2016 heavily involved in the security consulting. I was doing projects in Mexico, Colombia. We did a couple of joint interactions together with Shadi in Egypt and then in other places in the world. And from 2017 in the United States. Ahmad, maybe you go to the next slide.
Let me just greet everyone. Thank you so much. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening on the good evening side of the world. Hopefully there are some of you out there. My name is Ahmad Younes, Sales Director for MOBOTIX for the MEA Plus region. That includes Middle East, Africa, India, Turkey, and Southeast Europe. And joining me today, of course, from the Scylla side, Shadi. We're not related, but hopefully we are good friends. I'll give it to Shadi so he can introduce himself as well.
Sure, thank you. I'm Shadi Younes, co-founder of Sensitive Technologies that look after introducing smart technologies and emerging technologies in the Middle East. A solid partner in the MEA region for Scylla and its solutions, and how can we offer computer vision in a new way.
All right, so we're going to start up with introducing MOBOTIX side. As you all know, MOBOTIX is a German company established in Kaiserslautern, Langmile, which is 100 kilometers away from Frankfurt. We started in 1999 and we only did IP cameras. We have around 450 people working around the globe. We have 7 offices around the world. One of them is here in Dubai, which I'm sitting there. We have a training center. We have support people in India, in Dubai, in Saudi, and of course, the rest of the regions as well. We produce more than 10,000 cameras every month. And that is because of our quality control. Sorry, I skipped a slide. Our quality control is very, very precise. We have hardware control, quality control, and image quality control. So every camera gets tested before leaving the factory. And that gives us 0 dead on arrival statistics. What I wanted today to cover is, of course, the MOBOTIX vision, where it came from. So if you look at a conventional CCTV system, what we face in most of the cameras installed in the market, unfortunately, you have little or no intelligence on the camera. And that gives your camera, your people or your security people to spend more time on viewing false alarms or recordings that are not related to the events. It could be raining, could be windy, it could be animals moving. You're not really there to monitor that. So it gets more and more false alarms and more storage used and bandwidth, even time spent on that. And since everything is done on the server, you have to spend more money on infrastructure, you have to spend money on back-end devices, and you have to spend more money on power as well. And since everything is done on the server, you have a single point of failure, no true redundancy in case of power or network outage. What the camera can do in our case, what we will see in the next few slides, it can eliminate all of that disadvantages and give you a more secure and reliable system. And we will show you how the camera can actually prevent an incident by taking a decision right at the edge, right at the where the incident is happening. Of course, we have 2 types of solution. We have the hybrid solution where you have shared intelligence between the camera and the server, or you can go fully on the edge and give all the control to the camera. And since the camera is low end, or maybe could be no intelligence or no processing power on the camera cannot run algorithms complicated enough to prevent hackers from hacking into the camera and then using the camera to harm other devices on the network, disabling other things or attacking other things. I'm not going to go through all of the products, of course. I'm just going to explain briefly on what MOBOTIX offers at the moment as a hardware. So we have the first part, which is the IoT products. This is what we call the P6, which is the sixth generation of MOBOTIX cameras. As you can see, it's very unique. And each design, actually, there is a story behind it. For example, our most famous camera is the M16, where you have two lenses, day lens, night lens. It could be two angles covering two directions or two areas on a different level of details. And we have the S16, for example. This is also a flexible camera for mobile use, for monitoring two different areas at the same time without using two actual cameras, and then saving the infrastructure, saving more cables, civil work, and so on. The indoor cameras are designed in a way that suits an indoor environment where you have an elegant design without affecting your interior design. Of course, the thermal cameras are there. We have thermal cameras almost on all product lines, but in the IoT range, where we have used also with the Scylla a combination of thermal cameras and their analytics to detect the human temperature and identify people with potential fever. That's the IoT range. Of course, if you need to know more about these products, you can reach out to me, and then we can do a more detailed presentation on each and every one. Sorry, and then we have the complementary product, which is the MOBOTIX Move product. Everyone who knows MOBOTIX, we actually introduced a no mechanical moving part on the camera, and that's what gave the camera a long time to live without failures in terms of mechanical parts or moving parts. And since the market here requires built-in IR, varifocal lens, PTZ, we introduced something called MOBOTIX Move. We called it Move because it has a mechanical moving part and has different ranges from PTZ, from bullet and dome, and so on. Like I said, if you need more details about these, we can schedule something later. And then we have the most advanced MOBOTIX camera, which is the MOBOTIX 7. This made a big noise because it has a deep learning and AI capabilities. It has a very high advanced edge analytics. Why? Because the camera has a quad-core processor. It can do more complicated analytics. It can do a better image, of course, analysis and processing. And that's because of the ARM and FPGA architecture of the processor, neural network to allow the camera to do deep learning functions. Of course, we added the ONVIF ST and G that will enable also the camera to do more tasks and talk with more devices and communicate data with the server or with different analytics on the system. Of course, we added also the H.265 and the MX-Spec Plus. That gives the camera more integrating possibilities with other systems. And the resolution is 4K, and that device is 8K ready. And this is one of the advantages that MOBOTIX has. The hardware is capable enough to live many years to come. And this is why we call it a future-proof system, where you buy the hardware and, for example, after 5 years, 4K is already maybe outdated. I'm sure that it will not. And you want 8K. All you have to do is remove that lens, the image sensor in the front, and install the 8K from MOBOTIX, and then you have it. You have an 8K camera without reinvesting in your system. And then that's the M73, and we have the S74. S74 is the most versatile camera in the market at the moment from MOBOTIX, where you can connect 4 different modules. Those modules can be image sensors, can be IR, can be thermal. We also introduced the thermal lens, the VGA resolution thermal lens on the 7 series. Just to show you an example of the image quality that you might get from the MOBOTIX new M7 camera, this is just an example. Without IR, without any light source, you can get a very sharp image. and that's because of the powerful image sensor that is on the camera and the capability of the camera to do image processing in a very good way, like you see in this example. Of course, we can do demo. We can we call it proof of concept. You name it, we can do it. Just let us know. Moving on to the next slide, which is the MXPEG Plus. We still believe in that MXPEG Plus because this is the only security codec in the market that was invented for security application. Everybody is using, of course, H.264. We use H.264. We use H.265 as well. But MXPEG was invented for that purpose, for security application, while H.264 and H.265 for entertainment purposes. And that will give you a very sharp images, even in the fast-moving object, like here. You can see a bird moving, or a vehicle, or a rotating object. You can have many applications that can prove to you that the MXPEG Plus has a better capabilities than the other H.264 or H.265. Moving on, just to tell you about the intelligent security system. Now we saw the conventional CCTV system. Now we go back to the intelligent security system. What actually MOBOTIX believe, or the vision of MOBOTIX, the image processing happens on the camera. And since the image processing happens on the camera, not only you are preserving the quality of that image, but also you are able to identify threats directly on the camera without going back to the server. And since you are doing this, of course, you are reducing your false alarms by 90%, and less false alarms, as you know, that means less storage used for recording, less bandwidth, and the most important thing is the human interaction. And since the camera reduces the load on the server by doing some of the image analysis, or most of the image analysis, you don't use that many servers. Like we introduced in the M7, the application system, where you can have applications on the camera running to do multiple things. For example, as you will see also with Scylla, there is so many analytics that can make your life safer, smarter, and secure. And since it's all standard with MOBOTIX as a built-in feature, I'm talking about the image processing, decentralized system, and this is where MOBOTIX believes in, no single point of failure. Even if the server fails, some of the functions can still run on the camera without interruption. And that will give you a more reliable system. And the camera can do some actions using maybe the speaker, using emails, notifications to other systems, and so on. And since the camera has intelligence, has an advanced processor, you can now use stronger rules and protocols that can be used to prevent hackers. And we have so many certificates that can prove that our camera impossible to be hacked. What are the risks of cyber attacks? As you will see also in the next slides with Scylla, some maybe terrorist attacks or some damages that maybe people are planning, they can maybe target the CCTV system or the access control system, depends on what they are doing, to hack, to disable, and then, of course, to do what they want to do. And that, since you're using a secure camera, that can, first of all, be used as a first line of defense. And this is some of the examples that what MOBOTIX uses as a standard feature. Again, some users and groups, access control, restriction, HTTPS, of course, and X509 as a certificate, OpenSSL, and so on. So there are a lot of things that can be used by the camera to prevent an intrusion into or a hacking attempt into the camera or the system. Back to the sustainability part of the MOBOTIX camera, since you are using less power, because the MOBOTIX is known as a low power consuming camera, even with our built-in IR cameras, we use PoE+. With P6, for example, we use PoE, and that will reduce the power consumption dramatically. And the camera is robust. For example, the M73 can work between -40 to +65. Most of our cameras, they have 5 years warranty. Some of them, they have 3 years, can be extended. We have done warranty extension up to 8 or 10 years before, without an issue, of course, with the small fee. And since the camera is high resolution, you don't have to do reinvestment in your system in the future. Again, that will reduce the cost. And since the camera is, like I said, no mechanical moving part in the P6 or P7, again, you are having a long life camera. And this is made in Germany, and MTBF more than 80,000 hours, applies to all cameras, even the thermal. Yeah, so like I said, if you need more details, please reach out, and then we will come to the Scylla part. The camera is delivering a very high-end stream, very clear picture to the analytics. And then back to you, Albert. I hope I didn't bore anyone with those technical details.
No, that's
Now,
super important, Ahmad. Thank you very much. Appreciate
with you, Albert.
Sure. No, thank you very much, Ahmad. I appreciate the effort and the time for presenting us the MOBOTIX solutions. Regarding certificates, I can definitely confirm. I used to be working in Germany for long years. And when it comes to cybersecurity testing, QA engineering, or threat assessments, obviously you have the best certification scenarios. They tested throughout in different harsh conditions, etc., etc. So definitely, I would say whatever Ahmad is saying, he's even under-promising, right? So in comparison to what you can find on the market. But thank you very much, Ahmad. So let me take the screen sharing. Yep. Can everyone confirm that they can see my screen now? Okay, cool. So I would like to structure this the following way. So Shadi, I would like to present first of all my partner Shadi, right? So Shadi has been involved in security consulting and also software consulting for long years in the Middle East, but including Germany and the United Kingdom. And Shadi is well aware of the issues that can potentially present threat or risks to the sports venues or event venues in the Middle East. And I'll be sharing our experience, I'll be sharing the technology, and we'll give them the stage to Shadi to comment on that, right? Or give some experience or tell us more about his experience from those events. So let me start with Scylla, right? So what Scylla is? Scylla is a real-time physical threat detection solution. What we do, we take the stream from the cameras, we take the stream from the drones, and we use AI and computer vision to detect objects, actions, and behavior anomalies. And recently, we also launched new solutions to detect environment hazards, such as smoke and fire or oil leaks. The beauty about Scylla that we are not restricted by the moving backgrounds. So we can work on drones, we can work on PTZ cameras, we can work on body cameras, which is essentially making us very unique and holistic solution for the enterprises to deploy and implement. So we believe that what Ahmad is saying and MOBOTIX is doing is the future, right? So you shouldn't change your cameras every 2 or 3 years. You should buy one good camera, maybe change the lens from time to time, but you shouldn't change them, right? And where Scylla is strongest, we're like Netflix. So you buy camera once, then you connect it to Scylla, whether embedded or on edge devices or in cloud or on premise in case you are a large enterprise. And then you continue receiving new features, new capabilities, new detection times. You get a good support and you constantly get upgraded to the new models, which require less hardware and basically less human attention. So essentially what we want to do, we want to minimize your costs. We want to improve the lives of your security operators, and we want to save you from liability. And with some of the recent features, we want to also make money for you, basically improving the efficiency of your operations and giving you more knowledge what's happening during your sports venue and or the facility. So Scylla has 8 models, right? We do object detection, we do thermal screening, we have a very complex setup of intrusion detection and person search. We call it a generic action recognition, but very tailored towards threat to reduce the false positives. We track out objects like people, and we also have our own scenario of suspect search or person search, like for missing kids functionality. But let me stop with the sales pitch here, right? So, and let's get to the real life. Let's get what Scylla and Scylla specialists within threat assessment or risk mitigation space can help you to basically prevent potential risks or threats during events or venues. So let's start with one of the first use cases, which is already deployed in a couple of large sports clubs and venues across the globe, including United States. So Scylla is implemented on top of rooftop cameras, right, to detect potential snipers nearby using 4K, 8K, or even higher streams, or also to detect moving objects or people on the rooftops to potentially prevent attacks like the MGM attack, etc., etc. So what we do, we take the stream from MOBOTIX cameras using OnVIF or using the deep integration with their new AI cameras. We analyze, in case of enterprise, you would have to install us on your enterprise servers. In case of a small facility, you can also run us on edge devices. And what we do detect guns, right? We detect firearms. And we also classify them. We can understand if it's a gun, it's a rifle, it's a shotgun, it's a semi-automatic pistol rifle, etc., right? And after what do we do after detecting that? We can raise an alarm. We can push back the events to our dashboard. We can push back the events to your own video management system. We can also integrate with your own command and control setup. And once you detect it, you can initiate a search protocol, right? We can continue tracing people, whether they're on a rooftop, in a school, in a facility, in a sports venue, to potentially identify their escape route. Because what's happening now when there is an active shooter situation, when there's a terror attack, right? Or just a robbery in the facility, you start receiving 911 calls to the law enforcement. And usually those 911 calls are done not through the security department, but they are done through normal citizens like Shadi. And when you receive those calls, right, or the law enforcement receives those calls, they get messy information. There were 5 people, they were using different types of guns. They are now in the facility, or just they left the facility, they continue shooting people. And this is essentially decreasing the efficiency of the response teams to prevent further deaths or further risks to the facility. What Scylla can do nowadays, we have very powerful integrations with companies such as Intrepid Networks. We push events to their tablets, and on their mobile devices, the law enforcement officers or response units, they can understand how many shooters they were, what kind of weapons are they using, what's the probability of the weapon, and what are the escape paths using maps. And on the picture, you see an example of how this would work, right? So there's a rooftop, there is a potential sniper in this case, right? He has a rifle. We get a probability of 100% that we detected it. And that's it, right? So this it's better to detect this before the attack happens rather than after the attack, but also increase the situational awareness in case you want to find the suspects or you want to identify how many suspects there are. And Shadi, here, let's basically summarize this use case on the weapon detection technology from your experience in the Middle East.
Okay, based on the meetings with some of the clients and the sort of solutions they're asking for, what they want to do with major events or major gatherings, or where crowds are being in sensitive areas or near critical infrastructures, they want to be able to detect and scan the areas, but at the same time in a non-invasive way for these crowds. So the cameras will be there to detect, securing the perimeters, if you want to call it, without being very abrupt to scare people off. And these are the sort of solutions we've always been asked for, is how can we do it, but not intrusively, to ensure that the crowds are completely safe, be it within the infrastructure, in a hidden way, but the cameras are fully visible, fully functional. And how can we deploy, mainly going back to your point about the investment, how can we deploy on what we have rather than having to buy it all over again?
Shadi, Ahmad, from your experience and presence in the region, for example, which of the sports venues, maybe expos, could benefit from the weapon detection technology and the integrations with the command and control, and also workflows to raise an alarm or to respond to situations? Like, let's say, typical case, Dubai, right? Or Abu Dhabi.
So since now the region is attracting more events, for example, like Expo, like the festivals that is happening in Saudi, and many more events that is happening around the region, crowds monitoring is being more and more important for many reasons. Like you mentioned, the terrorist attacks, God forbid, or even pushing or fights and so on. So of course the authorities will want to investigate, and in order to investigate they will need, of course, a clear picture. They will need a powerful analytics like the one you have here to be able to analyze and catch or even prevent things from happening. So this is now I would say a trending requirement.
Okay, perfect. So let's give a real case, right? Dubai Expo. I've been at the venue once, and also Dubai is famous for the high-rise buildings, which is so far one of my favorite cities because I'm a big cyberpunk fan. And when I look at the Dubai, I see the future, right? And I'm sometimes envy to you guys that you live there, right? So, but again, let's get to the threat assessment space, right? If I want to get inside one of the hotels, which obviously don't have metal detectors in Dubai because Dubai is a super safe place. One of the potential challenges that I should obviously acquire the rifle or bring it to Dubai, but as soon as I'm there, nobody checks me in the hotel. Like there's no single check, neither in Imar Group or other places, right? And I get the rifle in one of the high rises, and let's say I'm a bad guy and I want to shoot people during the venue or create a mass panic for whatever reasons. So this is actually one of the ways how you can deploy Scylla on the rooftops, on the cameras, and prevent it. And if you check Scylla page on the case studies, we recently had an interview with James McJunkin, who is also on the board of Scylla, and he was also leading the FBI DC office for the last 20 years. And he was telling the experience of the Wrigley Field, which is one of the largest baseball arenas in the United States, on how they deployed Scylla on the rooftops to prevent scenarios using 4K and 8K cameras. But thanks for this. So let's move to the next use case, right? Because being a threat assessment specialist for many enterprises and also doing consulting, I know that one of the potential sweet spot for the terror attacks are the sports events. Sports events acquire people, the interest of people. People are basically getting there, and the security there essentially, yes, there is a security, but you cannot control that large amounts of people when they get to an open air sports event like the Boston Marathon bombing, right? And what happened there? So the two students from Chechnya, they were living in the United States long years. They had a lot of friends. They had a lot of interactions. They were normal citizens like myself or yourself, but at some point they were radicalized, right? And they decided to, they have been trained using social media, how to create self-made bombs using cookers. So they put nails there because being military, I know if you want to have a lot of dead people around, right? So if the area or the territory, you want to basically kill a lot of people from the enemy, and you want to destroy the infantry in large masses, you basically put something like nails or small metal balls into the plastic explosive or military grade explosive, and that's it. It's done. Basically, a small explosive device with a lot of nails can destroy or kill a lot of people. And in this case, there were a lot of victims. But also the bad thing is that many people become handicapped, because if you have a lot of this kind of bombs basically are created to leave a lot of potential people that will stay handicapped, because it affects limbs of the humans. So this is, for example, I know that this is disturbing, but this is reality, right? So these are the first moments after the explosion. So you see what's happening. It's panic. Some people are dead. Some people are already handicapped. Some people are in shock. And when there is a shock, so the police cannot respond well. The law enforcement is basically paralyzed, and people are in panic. There could be potential stampede scenarios, etc., etc. So what can Scylla do in order to potentially detect or prevent attacks like this, right? So we can understand the crowd awareness. So Scylla generic action recognition is also tailored to detect crowds and crowd movement. So let's say the crowd is standing calm or relaxed, and then suddenly there's a panic. Like we see a lot of human objects running in different directions, and we see it not only on not detecting by objects, but by analyzing the sequence motion, right? Using our neural network. So when we see that the crowd starts running in different directions, or they're panicking, or there's a stampede, or we see objects left behind with our back detection system without a human, then we raise an anomaly, we raise an alarm, and we immediately get the attention of law enforcement and people that are responsible for the protection of the venue. And in this case, we can do that also from drones. So if you have drones with high quality cameras, right? So we can, without even zooming or putting attention on specific objects or specific areas in a sports event or the venue, right? we can understand the bags, because Scylla is not sleeping, it's not having rest, so it's watching the stream 24/7, and within 400 milliseconds, which is less than a second, we can identify bags left behind or objects like hookers. Besides, we can also use facial recognition, right? So in case the security guards doing the sportswear and you have databases of potential terror attacks or terrorists or people on the watch list, they can match them and we can do crowd detection of the faces, right? Like in this case, obviously the technology at that time was not that developed, but nowadays, God forbid, if the attack like this happens, right, we could potentially detect using facial recognition those two brothers, right? So Shadi, please give some comments on this, right? I mean, obviously Boston Marathon was in the United States, but what are the active mass open air events that could happen in Dubai or Middle East from your experience?
Okay, now you put the Saudi national, so maybe I'll start with that thing. Now, this goes back again. Safety and security is at the essence of the new concept of smart cities, smart communities, and so on. What happened in Saudi during the National Day, I think some of the events that has happened could have been prevented had proper technology, cameras, and analytics has been in place for detecting and prevention as well. There's, as Ahmed said, there's a whole season of festivals and events that is going to happen in Riyadh, I think, and some other parts of Saudi. COVID is getting under control, so Dubai is going to go back into full swing. Abu Dhabi is the same, and some other cities within our region. Egypt is the same thing. So if I want to be honest, the safety and security using smart technology is becoming even more important. In some cities, the infrastructure is all there, but again, using such technologies will help the authorities to be able to deploy and refocus their personnel to the areas where there are more crowds, there are potential disturbances, or to be able to attend to those disturbances faster than ever.
Okay, thank you, Shadi. But again, let's bring, because I'm a very practical guy, right? So let's say I'm entering a marathon or a sports arena, right, which has metal detectors or maybe security guards which are checking the bags or backpacks, right? And there's a free entrance and there are lanes, right? Is facial recognition, Ahmad or Shadi, from your experience where MOBOTIX is deployed, is it working, or the security companies, potential law enforcement entities are not utilizing it at all now, or bag left behind during the venues?
No, they are. I mean, some companies are actually doing it, to be honest, but they're not maybe doing it enough, or let's call it this way: if they use these technologies even more, they'll increase their capacity and capability to cover more events and to cover more grounds when it comes to such events that are happening. If we look what's going to happen as more events, exhibitions, concerts, and so on starts being introduced, then they need to extend that with the use of such technologies. Now, the drones, it might be a good idea. Some countries allow it, some countries don't. But again, depends on the authorities and the profile of the events, whether they can be used or not. Well, I think it will be ideal in places like in Saudi Arabia during the Hajj or pilgrimage period. That can be ideal. Next month, I think, or maybe this month, the Riyadh festivals. Some drones can be used because some of these concerts are huge and the numbers are quite big. So even not cameras alone on fixed locations cannot even cover the whole crowd. So maybe the drones can actually jump to the head. Companies are using it, government is using it, but using more of it will give them that capacity and ability to respond fast. Ahmed.
Okay, perfect.
I just want to point out, we talked about now security for a while, but there is also the safety in terms of maybe a number of people in a certain area shouldn't exceed, for example, 50. Or, for example, it got too trafficky in one aisle that we need to direct the traffic into somewhere else. And now using those analytics and those cameras, you can manage your crowd, not only protect the crowd, but also manage the crowd so it doesn't get, you need to prevent, like I said, you need to prevent the incident before or try to prevent it. And that's, of course, using the information coming from the camera and from the analytics to direct the crowd into maybe maybe it got too congested in one area. You need to move some people around, or there shouldn't be more than 100 people in this area. You need to reduce, and then you can use that information to communicate with the ground people, because of course you have some people on the ground, security, police, wherever. That okay, now it's time to close this area because it had a lot of more people here. You need to start diverting to section 2, section 3, whatever. So not only as a security in terms of, like I said, attacks or stampede or whatever, but also to have a, at the end, people want to have fun. They want to go and enjoy. And this, of course, will affect the enjoyment when you have people pushing you or and so on. So if the people will start talking about, for example, I had a lot of fun, it was well managed, it will all reflect to the organizers. And of course, at the end, not only the organizers, also the authorities, because they did a very well job into managing the crowd and managing the event. Yeah.
Okay,
so that's
perfect, Ahmad. You are 2 steps ahead as always. So because we're going to cover the occupancy flow or the crowd management in the next slides, but let's get also to a very disturbing topic, right? So I've seen this many times, like I've seen this in many countries, and this is an actual issue, right? So, but let's get the one of the latest example, right? Saudi National Day, which happened this year. There have been cases, and also there have been appearances of the harassment of the young ladies in the streets of the kingdom, right? And which brought a lot of attention from the media, the condemnation of the many parties, like et cetera, right? So, and what Scylla can do in this case, again, just be connected with the existing cameras. Most probably MOBOTIX cameras are already installed there, right? Ahmad, you should tell me whether that's true or not. But we can identify fights, and we do that very accurately. So fight detection is one of the most accurate models that we have, and it's one of the most unique ones which you can find on the market nowadays, right? So we utilize very few GPU resources, and we can analyze hundreds and hundreds of streams to detect fights, and also we give you the full reporting, right? How many people were involved in the fight, how long did the fight did happen, et cetera, right? What we also did, we can analyze crowds, right? So crowd awareness, because Scylla is using object tracking. In this case, humans for an AI, right? Or for your cameras are objects. So we can identify humans and the number of humans in one area. We can identify the distance behind them. We can identify the dwell time, how long do these people stay in one place. And we can also identify their movement using optical flow, like if I can bring a bit of engineering jargon from the AI. And having all these features in place, plus action recognition, we can identify if the crowd is panicking, if there is a stampede, if they're waiting in a line long enough. We can identify if your security guards on the lane are effective enough, right? Because you can have lazy security guards which don't want to do checks, and people are just there and they get frustrated. And essentially it affects the reputation of your own organization or facility, which I've seen a lot, by the way. And what we did, we actually, let's move forward because that's the interesting part. Let me share my next screen and show the analysis of the fight and how Scylla could have detected or potentially prevented that fight, right? So give me just a couple of seconds. Okay, so as you can see, the crowd is getting nice in, right? They start kicking each other, then there is a crowd fight, and essentially more and more participants get involved, right? So, and this video was done with a very bad quality from the mobile device, but this can also show you that Scylla can analyze moving backgrounds, right? It can work also on body cameras. In this case, if there was a body cameras in law enforcement, obviously they would like to stop it, but taking into account the amount of people, we can do the analysis if the crowd is panicking, if they are hitting each other, if there is a potential stampede or they start running around. And as you can see, you can also understand exactly what's happening by clicking on the frame analysis. And in this case, we are not just analyzing objects, we're analyzing the whole historical frame, like we call it motion sequence analysis, which is a proprietary AI system to Scylla. So Shadi, I will let you comment on that, or Ahmad?
I think I already explained that, of course, this will help you manage the crowd in a better way, protect the crowd from themselves, like pushing, fighting, and so on, not only from external sources, like you mentioned, terrorist attack, but also sometimes the threat is within, because of the too much crowd, people started pushing each other. It's maybe too hot or too humid, and everybody is maybe excited, angry, whatever emotions, and then groups of people start fighting each other. This is important. Of course, you mentioned something about the moving background on a camera body, but also if that was maybe on a fixed camera from MOBOTIX, hopefully in the future, that will give you also better maybe results. Of course, the better quality picture you give to analytics, the performance will be even better. But I'm actually amazed that you managed to get fight detection from a mobile camera. That's very impressive.
Thank you very much. We have to obviously understand that AI is an AI, right? So I don't want to oversell my system, because again, I'm a very practical guy, and former engineer, and also a threat assessment specialist. So people that buy analytics should understand that also analytics has its own limitation, right? So it really depends on what's happening in the scene, etc., and the quality of the camera. So what I'm saying that AI is an AI, it always will have flaws, but we as an organization together with MOBOTIX always invest a lot of time and money to improve it, make it better. But the worth of it is definitely worth of investing, because we as organizations save you costs, we save you from liability, we save lives, and also by providing crowd management and also the occupancy flow analysis, we make you money because you understand how well your facility works. Good, because we have 15 minutes left, let's go through the next event, which we would like to cover, Hajj. So Shadi, here you are the expert, because I don't want to talk about something I don't understand or never been there, right?
Yeah, just like, again, going back into the whole crowd management system, and how what can we deploy out of the computer vision to be able to utilize the best of both worlds, the physical and the digital. So the good cameras with the good analytics software can do the whole crowd management for me, and it will give me as an operator of Hajj or any pilgrimage or event, to better organize and manage the events, from social distancing, from disturbances that can happen, any antisocial behaviors, and at the same time facial recognition if that need be. All of this can be done using cameras and analytics, and it's live alerts, and of course, for such a major event like Hajj every year for the government of Saudi Arabia, it requires huge efforts in preparation for the event, and even more efforts in actually managing and running to ensure the safety of people, and there is minimal, let's say, interference to them doing their pilgrimage during that season. And I think with the use of proper cameras, computer vision, and analytics, that will help them better deploy, let's say, the volunteers that they have, and better deploy the government officials that they have, and even better plan the spots for ambulances and evacuation routes based on that computer vision. So it's basically extending the power and ability of the Saudi government into managing these events more successfully.
Okay, perfect. So on this picture, you can see an example of how the crowd management works, right? So we can identify how many people passed the line, was the dwell time, the distance, etc., etc. You can run a lot of metadata analysis, and we also have full integrations with custom analytics software, right? Like Oracle DB, etc., etc. And let's move to the next slide. One of the recent use cases which we did is Muscat International Airport for the COVID-19 compliance, right? And also step by step, they switch to the full security solutions with Scylla. We can scan people, we can identify whether they are wearing PPE like masks, etc. We can understand if they are violating social distancing, whether they're intruders, crowd violence, etc. So this is one of the latest use cases with Scylla, right? And I already mentioned the use cases with sports venues, and nowadays Scylla has more than 97 enterprise customers, and actually this month we're going to reach almost 100 customers. Some of our notable customers is Daimler. We have 6 international airports, including Muscat International Airport. Recently, Scylla has been deployed at Iowa State Fair, so we have been securing overall almost 1 million people during the event. This is one of the largest events, which is actual to this topic. 2 days ago, we were securing Digitech, which is the largest tech event in Armenia. So I had to personally fly to Armenia to exhibit there and also help secure the operations. We have schools, we have facility management companies. We are deployed in the Ministry of Defense in APAC region. We are working in Colombia, Mexico. But again, the largest customers for us are sports venues, events, healthcare institutions, and also critical infrastructure. That's where we are strong at. And recently, we also have been moving step by step into oil and gas industry, where we have one of the largest use cases already deployed for intrusion detection, vandalism detection, and also oil leak detection. So from this, I'll leave the stage to Shadi and Ahmad to basically summarize the topic, and maybe if we have answers on our questions and answers on our station, we can also get there. But Shadi, Ahmad, the stage is yours.
Let's start with Ahmad, maybe.
Sorry. Yeah. So, like I said, this combination is really working. You have a powerful camera on the edge, delivering the correct information to the analytics to be analyzed, and decision or result can be shown. We talked about not only security. You don't need only to secure the people from outside threats. Also, you need to make sure they are safe in terms of like pushing fights or even overcrowded areas. We have done again some references in terms of like Albert mentioned, the sporting events like stadiums. We have a lot of references in there. If you think about stadiums, when people come to a match, it's almost the same as they come to an event. Whether it's an exhibition, whether it's a festival, it's the same thing. You have a lot of people coming to a small place, and you need to be aware of everything that is happening around those people, not only to secure them, but also to make sure they are safe and they're having a good experience, because that also reflects on the organizers, that also reflects on the authorities, and it reflects on the system integrator that actually executed that job, because of course a success story is a free marketing tool. Like I said, we have references. Just reach out. We can do also some more details into the products itself. From my side, if there is any question here or later, please feel free. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ahmad. Shadi, a couple of notes from you.
But I just don't want to repeat what we said. It's just that as we are going along and technology is advancing, I see it as an overall solution. It's the whole computer vision with every component that's under it, be it the camera, the smart system, the camera, the analytics on it, and the analytics that integrates on top of it through the VMS, and the sensors that you're going to use in any space, be it events, be it buildings, be it exhibitions. And where we see things going as things are opening up, since COVID is somehow under control and everything is kicking off back again. Probably some more things that we're yet to see. Gaming arenas that might also come up that will attract a lot of people to watch and to participate, and some other things that will happen in our region. Semi-cities or cities are being built between Saudi, Egypt, even here in UAE. There are new areas, new communities are coming up, and I think computer vision is at the core of this, to be able to scale fast, and as Ahmed said, safety and then security should be at the top of it. And with these technologies, or between both of your solutions and maybe some sensor technologies, everything connected, that will give the extra capability to the governments and the private sector.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Shadi. So let's go through questions and answers, right? So we have one of them actually. So Nasfir, thank you very much for the question. Nasfir is asking if we can identify twins, even worse, identical twins. So again, Nasir, as I said, you have to take the AI with a grain of salt, as always, right? The system is developing. You have more and more models coming up, new AI architectures, which some of them we have developed ourselves in-house as well. So the short answer, detection of identical twins will reduce the accuracy of the facial recognition model. So the way it works from the scientific background, right? You need to identify facial marks. So if people have scars or they have some features on the face which are different from the identical twin, then you have a probability of differentiating identical twins. If they are fully identical, like the life was very careful with them, they have no differences in the faces, then the accuracy will drop. Some of the models are working on the minimum amount of features, right? So in this case, you also have to, when you are deploying Scylla facial recognition, you have to adjust the threshold to look for more fresh features, because then what is facial recognition? We using deep learning and computer vision, we extract the facial features and do analysis one-to-one within high accuracy and high speed. Let's say one face could be matched with 10 million faces in a database. But essentially, those twins should have some facial marks to be different, if that answers your question. Anastasia, do we have more questions?
No, we don't have.
Okay, perfect. I think we are, as always, on time. So thank you very much, Shadi and Ahmad. I would say we appreciate the time that you spend with us. Shadi, continue rocking in the region, implementing more Scylla solutions, getting more customers. And Ahmad, Shadi, see you guys in January in Emirates. Okay.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Shadi. And thank you, everyone.